It'd be unfair for me to ask you to evaluate the article I showed you only this morning because you hadn't read it yet. But the title pretty much says it. It says that it appeared this morning, "Are cyber crooks funding North Korea's nukes? How does Kim Jong-un come up with the billions to pay for nuclear tests? Increasingly successful online bank heists provide a lot of the funding." Does that make sense to you?
So I'm not going to get into specifics in an unclassified form, but we have publicly acknowledged, we have seen the North Koreans use cyber in a criminal mechanism, if you will, to generate monetary resources.
Yeah, it has to come from somewhere.
Sure.
And when you look at it, you kind of eliminate, you come down to that conclusion that they might be right on this.
Although I would highlight this is only one element of the North Korean broader attempt to generate revenue and get it back to North Korea.
Yeah, well, you know, when we look at and see the growth in this thing from 2006 to 2015, the number of cyber attacks has climbed by 1,300%. And then you talk about, and we've all visited about the policy or the lack of policy and making the decision. There's some thought that maybe there's too much authority at the top. It was General Goldfein that was quoted in December of last year, actually before this committee, said, "If we want to be more agile, then the reality is that we are going to have to push decision authority down to some lower levels in certain areas." Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. And we've highlighted in the cyber arena to Secretary Mattis as he has assumed his new responsibilities. I think this is an important area that we need to reassess, particularly within the cyber arena.
Yeah. Just a matter of a few weeks ago, we happened to be in Israel, and we met and talked to their National Cyber Directorate, is Dr. Evitar Montanya, for a cyber subcommittee meeting. He actually came over, and we had, it was Senator Rounds who was with me at that time, and of course he chairs the subcommittee, and we had a meeting that I think was pretty productive. Dr. Montano is very careful not to say that perhaps there might be doing something better there than we're doing. He said it's much more complex in the United States because of the size and all of that. But he also pointed out three things that were significant, and I just wondered if you had any thoughts or if you studied their system and maybe some other countries too.
So
what they're doing.
With the case of Dr. Montanya, there's a reason why every time I'm in Tel Aviv, I see him, and every time he's in the United States, he sees us.
I knew that's the case. He said the same thing.
From each other, and in fact, we are talking about some potential test cases that we could use with a new team in place, so we'll see how that plays out over time. But I look to him. One of the things that I have learned in my journey in cyber is there is no one single organization, group, or entity that has all the answers. So it's about the power of partnerships here, and how do you create a system that enables you to gain insight and knowledge from a whole host of partners, some within the United States, outside the United States, within the government, the academic world, industry. He's one example of the power of that to me.
Yeah, I kind of got that impression too. When General Alexander was in that position, he spent some time out at the University of Tulsa, and I know there are many other schools too. The chairman asked the question, are we having access to the people that are going to become necessary to staff this new, very serious problem that we have? Is there an effort going back to some of these schools and to promote the programs as were promoted in that particular university?
Oh, there is. Between NSA and Cyber Command, we have relationships right now with over 200 academic institutions around the United States, because that's in part the future workforce for us. Although one thing I try to highlight is be leery of creating a cyber force where everyone is cookie cutters. We need to get a broad range of skills and experience here. And some people are going to be really good at this, and they won't necessarily have advanced education, but they've spent much of their personal life in this. So we've got to build a construct where we can get that full spectrum of capability.
And you know, we look and we see what some of these countries are doing. Putin, when he came in after their parliamentary election, and they didn't have any communists for the first time in 96 years, he started doing things in addition to just the coming in and declaring a level of warfare. He also started working. And apparently, according to Poroshenko, they have used cyber capabilities to attack the Ukrainian government more than 6,500 times over the last 2 months. So this is something that is happening, not just, it's happening all over the world.
Sure.
And you see something like the example in Ukraine that didn't take any lead time, and all of a sudden they're already inflicting that type of harm. And I'm sure that you're right on top of everything that's happening.
We're trying.
With us. Thank you very much.